Yeah, but I
Make sure those papers line up where they're supposed to be. Okay, today you guys are gonna be the help desk people, because I mean, these are emails that have actually been sent to me by people that were wanting help with their cars. And you guys know I got a website where people email me and they ask questions, and there was one guy said he wanted to pay me for my answers and all that. I said, no, I'm not charging you anything for my answers, because I ain't guaranteeing none of my answers. So if I'm charging, see, they gotta claim if the answer is not the right one. Of course, I'm not gonna tell them anything that's gonna hurt them, you know. Sometimes I'll just tell them, you need to go and, have this looked at somewhere, because you don't have the ability to do it. But, this is you today, this is evaluate and think, because every time in between the question and the answer, I'm gonna see what you guys have to say about it. I need you to talk loud and communicate well so I can understand you instead of muttering and mumbling, okay? Okay, my name is Stacy. I'm so glad to have come across your page, and I hope you'll get answers. Recently, I got my oil changed, and the place didn't put oil in my car. The engine got seized on the driver's side. Found inside the engine a few rocker rollers were completely ruined. Replaced them, got a new battery, new spark plug. Now the car runs once again, but it runs weird. At times it drives just perfect, at other times it's really a slow start. I mean, I floor it, and it doesn't kick out of the floatus until about 25 miles an hour slow. Then continually I have to floor it because it seems not to get enough power to keep the speed I'm holding on the accelerator. So she's got to hold it on the floor all the time to keep it going. I've been told it's the fuel injectors, but I feel it has something to do with the fuel pump or maybe the filter. If I stay in park and rev the engine, it drives fine until a few minutes later, then back to the slowness.
Sounds like the motor's locking.
He said, sounds like the motor's locking up. See, what he's doing is, and then he's thinking back about the other problem that she had, which was an internal engine problem because they didn't put oil in it. What?
Did they replace the motor?
No, all they did.
They just fixed it. They fixed some of the roller rockers.
Well, she's probably got a freaking white out bearing, ringing the oil pressure. What's the oil pressure? Tell her that, what's the oil pressure?
Stacy has no way of checking the oil pressure. She just wanted an idea.
Take it somewhere and tell them to replace the motor.
Okay, so you're telling her that she needs a motor. What about you, sir? Incidentally, if you get this one wrong, it's going to cost you your grade. Okay, so what? What do you think?
Well, I mean,
Zane is looking at his cell phone, hoping for an answer there. What do you think?
Yep.
Actually, he's playing 8-ball pool. What you got?
Wrong again. Baby.
it's not a sticky
Low fuel pressure, that's what he said. All right, this is what happens. It sounds like a fuel starvation problem if you get somebody to check the fuel pressure, blah, blah, blah. And I told her, if you got a good fuel filter, the pump may be weak. And she put a fuel filter on it and fixed it. Give that man a cigar. Da-da-da.
But anyway,
I was paying attention to what she was saying about having trouble, having to keep her foot in it. But sometimes it runs just fine. Now, if she needed an engine, would it sometimes run just fine? Heck no.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You gotta.
Yeah, but think about it if the motor was trying to lock up, because it ain't, sometimes the motor like try to lock up and then it'll free back up and then go on and go.
Well, would it be smarter to put a fuel filter on it and see if that was it before you put a motor in it?
Yeah, but I'm just saying it could have been.
Okay, could have been, but is that what you do first? No, you know it's not what you do first. You're gonna do what's cheap and easy first.
Okay.
You always
Okay.
do what's cheap and easy first.
Here, we'll go with your thing. I had a boat motor. I was going across the lake and it locked up. I took and went back there and turned it backwards and freed back up and crunked it out and kept going. You think I needed to change the fuel filter to
Before I put a motor in it, I would. Right. Now here, this guy here says, this is not too hard here. This is a fairly simple one. Even the second-rate amateurs ought to be able to get this one, right? I have a clicking sound like a vent door trying to open or close when the heater's on. To get the heater to blow warm air, I usually have to have all the back vents on. The same with the air conditioner. It also has a clicking noise. This is something I can fix.
that. Sounds like an actuator.
Yeah, kind of. What do you think? This guy needs some real advice now. He doesn't need. Now see this other girl over here. If I had told her, you need to put a motor in this car because you're an idiot for trying to drive it after they didn't put oil in it, and she would have said, well, this other guy put a fuel filter on it, and that's all I needed. So you're the idiot. Okay, you know what I'm saying? So think about that before you jump in. It's real easy to spend somebody else's money like Jonathan. You're going to need to buy this and buy that. You know?
I bet in the next 10,000 miles, somebody will be like
What you guys think about this other one?
I think it's a twin door, right?
wind door actuator, probably related to some jammed door. The actuators make that noise when they try to move the door, it won't move. I also break teeth on them. A tech would try to remove the actuator and try to move the doors by hand. If you move them by hand, they move freely, the actuator needs to be replaced, if not, then you were right on with your diagnosis of the heating problem. The repair done, the heater's working. That's the only email I got back from him. He said it's okay. He followed up. This phone right here is just a wonderful device here. I don't know what happened there. There was a one-time ringer. All right, let's go here again. I'm having a problem with my late model 90s GMC Suburban automatic transmission. I had the oil changed 2 days ago. The day before this, I started having a problem when I was driving it. Starts just fine, but then instead of changing gears, it stays in first gear and the RPMs just increase. This is kind of what I had on that worksheet, wasn't it? Right. The speed gradually increases, but you can tell it's still first gear. I've checked all the fluids and everything's fine. It was low on coolant, so I added that. Any ideas before I take it somewhere? Talk to me. What you got? What you gonna tell this guy?
I'd tell them if they put it first and try shifting it manually.
Yeah.
Okay. What you gonna try to shift it manually?
I mean, just to see what
Just to
it's.
see if it goes, it's like, if it shifts manually, then you gotta, I mean, it's hard to say, 'cause you can't really, you're not doing any of the work.
I know, but I mean, they send me emails and I answer them, and you know, that's why I'm asking you. I mean, this is teaching you how to think.
So he had the fluid changed in?
No, the engine oil.
Yeah, that don't mean, did they put the wrong fluid back in the transmission?
I tell you what I'd check to make sure the wires wasn't unplugged on the transmission.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Because that one right there it's got a manual gear selector, but if the wires is unplugged, it's not gonna shift, it'll stay in first gear. It's gonna default to first gear.
Now, if you got one that won't shift out of first gear, what does that usually mean?
It's in the default.
It doesn't know how fast the vehicle's going. It thinks it's just still going slow.
Did you have the RPM?
It doesn't know, the speed, you know.
We don't know that.
The PCM either doesn't know the vehicle's moving or there's something stuck or inoperative in the ship's working. I guess the speedometer works. Have somebody retrieve the trouble codes, write them down, pull a battery cable for about 10 minutes, put it back on, reboots everything, see if it makes a difference. Thanks for your help, your advice was right on point. All he did was reboot his instrument cluster by taking the battery cables off.
What did it have to do with changing the oil and making it do that?
Nothing. That was just something that he noted a couple of days after he got the oil change. A lot of the times when we work on one, something will go wrong with it that's unrelated. Now sometimes it's our fault. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes when we don't think there's any way it could be our fault, it is. And sometimes when it seems like it has to be our fault, it's not. But we have to basically look at that thing from the customer's point of view. And if you got a reasonable customer, you can usually say, like on my sister says when my dad put brakes on her car, her radio quit working. And she just figured he must have done something to it because it was working whenever she dropped it off to have the brakes put on. All I did was jack it up and put pads on the front, you know. Turned out I had a shorted capacitor radio. All right, I've got a 98 Nissan Frontier 5-speed 2.4 liter four-wheel drive truck. When I'm either in gear or not, my engine will sputter when the gas pedal is lightly pressed. I press the gas pedal just a little and it starts to sputter. Once driving up to speed with the gas pedal at least halfway down, things seem fine. So we're not really skipping per se, unless we're just breaking into it a little bit. Ooh, you know. I've replaced the wires, the plugs, and distributor cap. I have a K&N air filter that was cleaned about a year ago. And my fuel filter was changed less than 3 years ago. The problem started with a check engine light and the code saying cylinder number 4 misfire. That's when I changed wires, plugs, etc. I'm still having the sputter.
Fuel filter.
Hmm?
Fuel filter.
What filter?
Fuel filter. It's been
If you
changed
just
less
start
than 3
cracking the
years ago.
throttle and it sputters?
It's 3 years old.
I know that. I mean, I see
It
where,
says start cheap.
that's not the symptom for a fuel filter though.
Get out.
You got weak fuel pressure.
Freaking fuel injector.
If he's driving down the road, he's not talking about whenever he full aboard the accelerator and passes a semi, it runs just fine, you know. He's not having a problem when he's standing on it. He's having a problem just when he cracks the throttle a little. You know what I mean? Don't condemn a fuel filter if it's just when you crack the throttle, even
If
sitting
it's 3 years
still.
old, it needs to be replaced anyway, so.
Well, maybe, but what I'm saying is what we're trying to do is surgically repair this guy's problem, not throw a bunch of parts at it because he hadn't changed a fuel filter in 3 years.
It's
You know what I
3
mean?
years old.
And whenever people are talking about, you know, I've had people say, my car wouldn't start, so I changed the fuel filter. What good is that? You know what I
His
mean?
car is starting or whatever.
I mean,
Well, first
Did you
off,
not just say?
I check the injector, make sure it's working, and,
Now remember, it idles just fine, and it does okay going down the road, or as far as he can tell. All right, but what he does is when he just cracks into it, either sitting still, or when he's just driving off a little bit, he's feeling it sputter, and he's getting them. Look, think about it. Here's the key.
has the EGR ports clogged on intake?
Ha ha! Listen to that guy. This is what I was telling you guys about the other day. I talked about one of these that we had here that did that. Listen to that. Help this guy. There's 4 little ports that feed the exhaust gas to the cylinders on the trucks. If I remember, one of my students had a problem with that on his mother's truck. Port number 4 is the only one that's getting EGR. That's the misfire. Disconnect the vacuum hose, go in the EGR and drive it that way. If it goes away, the EGR ports need to be cleaned. His follow-up was, not only does it not sputter anymore, but it seems like it picked up about 10 horsepower. I'm kind of strapped for cash. How long do I have until I can pay somebody to clean those ports out? Now, granted, you're not selling him anything he didn't need when you put a fuel filter on it, but that wouldn't have fixed his concern. That's the point I'm trying to make. You know what I mean? And, you know, of course, the way that the tack you can take on that is say, well, we're going to put your fuel filter on it, whether that fixes it or not. You need one. We don't know if they'll fix it or not. But, you know, if you put the fuel filter on it because that's something you know how to do and it's needing it, and then you wave him on down the road and then somebody else finds out what was really wrong with it, he's going to say, well, we put a fuel filter on it, but that didn't fix my problem. I don't think those guys much know what they're doing over there. All right. So, I have a 2003 Ford Explorer with about 96,000 miles on it. The other day I put it in reverse and backed up about 120 feet. When I got it about 20 miles an hour, it starts bucking. Then I drove to a parking lot and tried the same routine, kept getting the same thing. Any idea what may be the problem? I'd really appreciate it.
Trying to back up too fast?
It sounds to me like it. But
Sitting a red line.
this guy that I knew that worked with me at the Ford place over there bought his wife a red 94 Taurus. And it would do that. And you were pretty well on target. All right, let me get this thing done. Okay, now what? Now, his 94 Taurus, he was doing the transmission work at the time, and he pulled that transmission out of that thing and rebuilt it 2 or 3 times trying to make it stop doing all that. And he finally just gave up on it.
Why would you be worried about it? Who in the world needs to back up going 20 miles an hour?
I don't know, but it was something that was bothering him, and it was his wife's car. It was under warranty, and so he worked on it, you know. And so I was thinking, you know, I probably wouldn't worry about that either. But what I did was, I got a 95 Taurus that I had, and I noticed me and the boys were over close to Savannah, and I went up, I made the wrong exit. I said, I don't want to go 20 miles before I can turn around. And there wasn't no other traffic much around there, so I just threw it in reverse to back up, you know, so to go back down the interstate. And I noticed it doing that, boom, 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 boom. It's like a rev limiter. You know, I said, what the heck is this, you know? And then I realized that back when Audi had there were a lot of stuff going on with people cranking up their cars in the car and take off in reverse and go plow into something, crash into it. And they blamed it on the car, and Audi, you know, wound up with in a lot of trouble, but it wasn't their fault. What it was driver error, because that was before the days when you had to put your foot on the gas to put it in reverse, and people were putting their foot on the gas and dropping it in reverse, and when it's on high fast idle and it lurches backwards, it throws you against the accelerator pedal, and you can't get off of it. Because the more it keeps accelerating, you just can't get your foot off the accelerator pedal because of the weight of your, foot together. And this has happened, and this independent insurance investigation studied all of these incidents and found out every single one of them was driver error. And that's where this thing came from, where you have to put your foot on the brake to take it out of gear. That's where that came from. Now Ford was saying, even though you got to put your foot on the brake to take it out of gear, we don't want somebody backing up too fast. So if somebody is dumb enough to try to back up too fast or something happens. Now you can, this is the other thing. Watch this. If you've got throttle plate sticking, now on his truck the other day, he was telling me that when he go to that 2005 F-150 5.4 he's got, he said, when I go to give it the gas, I go to take off, and it doesn't go, and then all of a sudden it jerks, jerk a crick in your neck taking off. And I said, well, you need to clean the throttle body on that, because the throttle plate's sticking. and then whenever it pops it loose, and so he cleans it out with a toothbrush and some lacquer thinner with it. I got him coaching him on that, so they gets it all cleaned up, and it's like a new truck now. And so he says he was looking on the internet, and there was people reflashing PCMs and replacing them and everything else for that same problem. Well, all it really needed was the throttle body clean. Well, people can have a clean throttle. You ever seen one with a cable on it? When you go to stand on the throttle, it's like you're standing on a brick and all of a sudden it pops loose. It's the same thing, except it's got a cable. You can feel it. On that one, there's no cable. And it just, when it pops loose, it just surprises you. You know, you can run into something like that. Well, there's one woman that I read about somewhere a long time ago on an Explorer. She was going, and for some unexplained reason, and nobody knew why, but I imagine I probably, you know, it's what it's the reverse thing I'm talking about. She put it in reverse, took her foot off the brake, put it on the gas, and whenever it popped loose, it took off and threw her against it. And she went all the way across the road and down into a pond on her Explorer and drowned. And nobody knew why she backed into that pond and drowned, but I imagine it probably popped loose and she couldn't get off the gas, you know, and it went right on out there. But anyway, that's something to think about one way or another. But I got Eddie's car. Eddie's wife was driving a 98 Taurus, which is after they went OBD2. And I says, let me see if Eddie's car will do this. So I went out a big old parking lot, me and Eddie and another guy, and that car of Eddie's will probably go 100 miles an hour backwards. It don't ever quit, you know. They'll never do that. So you can't assume that's going to be there. It's on some of them, and some of them it's not. And this is the only ones I know about that got no
Which
Ford.
which one y'all was driving in reverse at 100?
That was me. All right, so right here, actually, I said it would go to 100 miles an hour. We were driving we probably got 50 or something before we stopped and all. There was another story I could tell you about that too, but I don't have time. It's funny, but it was back before they had all this kind of stuff. And it would take a long time to tell it, but this boy was out there, and they thought there was, these cops were out there on top of this hill out there on this helicopter pad. He thought there was going to be some of the druggies that had got arrested the night before out there. And so this friend of mine and some other guys in his old Dodge went out on the helicopter pad, and they were just sniffing around out there just to see what was out there, because it was the next morning after the big drug bust took place. And when those cops were out there waiting, see if anybody else would come out there, and here they come peeling out from behind one of those little hills out there, and they chased him all the way across the helicopter pad backwards, and he was in reverse going about 70 miles an hour. And he jumped the highway and slid into the preacher's front yard, and the cops pulled up there with their lights on and said, you know these boys? And they said, yeah, they go to church here. They just are out there, you know, those aren't drug guys. So the cop says, all right, well, don't you come out there again until we clear the place. But in fact, all of the guys that were in his car were scared to death because he had his arm on the seat and was going, you know, with a cop in front of him coming at him across the field. You know, that was spooky. I was not in the car, so I'm not going to, you know, say what I thought about it as far as, but it was funny. I bought a 98 Acura CL 3-liter with automatic transmission, and it would run smooth and strong. It has directional tires, but the two in the front are different than the two in the rear. Now this guy's, he's a thinker. When I accelerate or decelerate, I hear a humming noise, sounds just like the tires. Since it's automatic transmission, I put it in neutral. Next time I slow to a stop to see if the noise might be the transmission, the noise is still there. You know, puts it in neutral, so the transmission. Two different sets of direction tires make it noise. I check the transmission fluids and it's perfect and pink. The car shifts smooth, it's just annoying noise between 25 and 30 and then it fades away. All right, this one should be pretty easy. This is what he did. He switched it off with the transmission in neutral, and he may replace the tires. Swerve back and forth. Now let me hit you with this. This one instructor came and she says, I had my tires rotated. You might remember this. I had my tires rotated, and now it sounds like a tractor going down the road, roar, making all the racket. Immediately, as soon as I rotated the tires. And what had happened was he had driven it too long without having the tires rotated and got that cupping started. And then when you put the tires in a different position, it made noise. Put them back where they were and all the noise went away, but you know, they were cupped. So, if it's not too objectionable, I wouldn't worry about it. Just pay attention. If it starts getting worse, it's probably the tires. So, he swerved left, right, heard the noise change sound, changed the rear tires to the front to the rear, and the noise heard at higher speed, so it's definitely tires. Basically, we just pointed him in the direction of what he needed to do there, on the tires there. He said he put it in neutral, turned off the engine, and the noise is what he heard all the way to a dead stop. That's what he listened to. All right, here's one right here. You gotta have fun with this one. When the lights are on, and the brake pedal is pushed, all the rear lights except the top middle brake light go out. So the only thing that comes on She got her park lights on, the lights out here are burning, she mashes the brake, everything except the high mount stop light goes out. Okay, when the lights are on, cruise control won't work. Cruise button on the dash lights up when pushed but can't set speed. When the cruise is on, all the brake lights except the top middle light won't work sometimes. When the vehicle's off, driver's side door is open, brake pedals pressed, constant high-pitched sound happens. Same sound as warning given when his car is off, door is open, and lights are left on. So they're headlight warning.
The brake pedal switch is shorted because if you're in gear going down the road, and you can turn the cruise on while the brake pedal's pressed, but you can't set it.
Yeah, you're close. Somebody said it could be the turn signal multifunction switch, blah, blah. Can't drive it at night, my job depends on it, and this girl's name is Sunshine, all right? Sunshine needs some help, okay? So you're saying the brake pedal switch is stuck,
Shorted.
shorted. Now you gotta remember, she doesn't have a problem, she never sees anything change in the back until she mashes the
That's what
brake.
I'm saying.
When she mashes the brake, all the lights go out, but the high mount comes on. The high mount's not on all the time. The high mount comes on, the center high mount stoplight, the Chimsel, CHMSL, but she's actually seeing no lights back there doing anything unusual until she mashes the brake. High mount comes on, park lights go off. The high mount shorted. Seems to me like it's the only thing that's working right.
I wonder if the tail lights got water.
Tail lights got water in them? Well, she did mention that. Problem with the bulb sockets or the bulbs themselves, I'd start by replacing both rear bulbs because that's cheap. And a ground problem can happen right there at the bulb, and they can look good and be bad. 3357 and similar variety. Examine the bulb sockets for corrosion and heat damage. Seems odd that both sides would have the same problem. They could have died one at a time. So the cruise control would react to this concern. The cruise control searches for a ground through the stop lamp bulbs. When that ground is neutralized for some reason, bad bulbs, bad bulb connection, bad bulb ground, the cruise will react as if the brake pedal's being activated, which is kind of what you were thinking about, and that'll kill the cruise. The brake lights may be getting their ground through the tail lamp filament or vice versa, which would explain why those lights go off when you apply the brakes. Let's replace the bulbs and examine the sockets first. That'll be the cheapest thing to do. Let me know what happens. I replaced both rear brake bulbs. Everything works like a charm. Thank you so much, Sunshine. Do you know a good-looking boy that I can go out with? All right. And couldn't come up with anybody. All right. I pulled the transmission from a 96 Dodge Dakota, and I had it rebuilt at a local shop. After reinstalling the tranny, the engine will not start. No spark.
Will it spin over?
Yeah, there's no spark. It spins over with no spark. The truck ran fine prior to the tranny work. If there's something in the tranny hookup that could cause the engine not to spark. All electrical connectors are intact and correctly attached. Other than disconnecting the battery, nothing was done to the electrical system. Dave. Now don't tell him somebody screwed up and you need another engine. That's not. We're not going there. Okay.
I tell him to check the fuses.
Yeah.
And then if not, make sure you don't have the wiring harness pinched between the motor and the bell house.
Now what you just said was exactly what I was thinking. I mean, what you said was what I was thinking, because that is a very common thing. If that thing on a Dodge, if it falls between the motor and the bell housing and you pinch those wires, you know, dead in the water. There's one guy that's working over at the Ford place that wasn't really the sharpest tool in the shed, and he did some work back there. And he was sitting in the engine, sitting in the car trying to get it to start, kind of like some of you guys will do, you know. You'll sit in the car and go, and I said, hey, he looked at me and said, it ain't gonna start. He's just spinning it over, you know. But I said to somebody the other day, it was out here just spinning his car and spinning the car and sitting there and spinning the car and spinning the car. All right, this guy right here found it, and it's not what you think it was gonna be, but it makes all the sense in the world. Check the crank sensor wires, you probably pinched them putting the transmission back in, is what John said. He said, I pulled the crank sensor, and when I inserted the sensor, it picked up a star washer without me noticing it. And the magnet grabbed the star washer, and he put it in there with a star washer on it, and it wouldn't ran across the sensor, and it didn't neutralize the signal, it wouldn't work. I pulled the sensor, moved the washer, and she started right up. Now remember, some of those sensors, like the one on that ratty old Jeep we worked on, have got to have a sticker, a little thing stuck on the end of it, and when you stick it down in there, you stick it down there so it's touching the pulse wheel, and then you tighten it up, and whenever you spin it over, it skins that little spacer off, and that makes it the right spacing.
Or a special tool go down the drain line.
That worked pretty good, yeah. So you had to pull it down, but you still need to have that little, you can guess at it. I've done that before. I've guessed it the right, clear. If you get it too close, it doesn't run. If you get it far enough, it'll run crummy or won't run. And if it's exactly the right, the spacing is critical on some of them Dodge and Jeep sensors like that. Not all of them, but on some of them it is. If it's an adjustable sensor with just one bolt hole, it's one of those kinds. And I've got a little bunch of stickers in there. Okay, my vehicle will not stay started unless I press the gas. It will stay running as long as I keep pressing the gas. This is vehicle 9. This is a 92-pound Victoria that won't idle. Unless she puts her foot on the gas, it will not idle. Crank it up, let off, it goes dead. Crank it up, let off, it goes dead. 92 Crown Vic. And it looks like it's in pretty good shape. Everybody's quiet.
Think you have bad fuel pressure?
Not if it won't idle. Bad fuel pressure don't keep it
I've
idle.
seen them not idle, you can sit there and work your foot and it'll crank up.
I don't know, but can you give it gas and it revs up?
What about the throttle bar being dirty?
That is feasible if they had a dirty throttle body and changed the battery, and so they lost their adaptive learning. Yeah, possible. But what I told her, what does she need to do? I'd say the idle air control is stuck. Make sure there's no vacuum leaks, have somebody clean the throttle body and replace the idle air control valve. Isn't tough for a rich smart guy to do that. You were exactly right. Thanks so much. Hey,
Usually when an idle air controls go bad on them boards, it sounds like an owl.
no, that's a different kind of failure. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. I've seen them. But we actually put a different idle air control supply hose on some of the early 92s because of that. It was a muffler to keep that from happening. But it'll sit there and it'll go, make a noise like that, like your bellowing trumpet noise. We had one of these do it. But basically, if you replace the idle air control, it'll usually take care of that. I've seen it happen on tempos and other.
The new one's a shape different.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the one
That
that,
little
the
thing.
one that had on just bolted flat up to it, and this other one's kind of, like the bottom of it's kind of twisted out.
Yeah, we took the original hose off that was feeding it and put one in there that had a muffler in it. That's not doing that. And that is it. Now, I want to tell you one other little thing. There was a time when we had these back in the late 90s. They had the evaporator drain fixed on these 5.4s where they drip on the upstream number 1 oxygen sensor, 1.1, and that water dripping on it would ruin it. And so what they had us doing was, they had this little 90-degree PCV closure hose that they got from something else. They had a rubber end on it that was plastic, and you're supposed to cut it after you replace the oxygen sensor, which was kind of a pain if you didn't have the special wrench up built. Put that oxygen sensor on there, and then you're supposed to put this thing on the evaporator drain and fix it so that it was piping that water drip away from the oxygen sensor. And so we got pretty good at that. It's aggravating as all get out because you didn't have about that much room up there, and it's way up in there, And what we would do is, stretch the boot and work it over and all that kind of stuff. And I would stick that plastic thing on a screwdriver and stick it up in there and get my hand on it just right and kind of roll it on there. After you've developed a technique, which is really important to do, we did a bunch of those things. Donnie and I did them all the time. You could knock that sensor on there and put it in there and be through in 30 minutes and get it back out the door. And one of the line mechanics was having to do one of those. And he was back there, he was older than me, and he'd been around for a long time, done a lot of work and everything, and he couldn't get that thing on there. And the big boss man was back there, and he was sweating bullets trying to make it happen. And I said, see if you can see if you can make this happen. He'd already stretched that thing and fooled with it so much trying to get on there. I got my long handled wooden screwdriver and stuck it on there, and I just went, whoop, just put it on there real quick, And he says, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this. And I said, what's the problem, man? I said, put the thing on there for you. Yeah, you made me look bad to the boss man, though. Because he had, nah, he was just one of these guys that talked like that. But Anyway, that was a funny situation. I wasn't trying to show him up, but they called me back there to see if I could get it on there, because they knew I put those on all the time.